I am not a historian, but neither are you. So, how about we, the people, learn this stuff together? Welcome to US 101. And yes, we're talking about JFK, talking about the killing. I know what's going to happen next in the comment section. Let the conspiracy theories begin, man. It was the Russians. It was the Russians, was it? No. It's too simple. It was the Cubans. The Cubans did it. No. It's also the CIA. It was the CIA that did it. It makes perfect sense. Unless, of course, it was Ted Cruz's father behind the grassy knoll. That's a good one. No, you know what? You know who it was? I know exactly. Got it. It was Professor Plum in the conservatory with the rope. Yeah, needless to say, guys, when Trump decided to release all of these previously classified documents that had to do with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, all the theorists came out the woodwork and were combing over with a fine-tooth comb all these documents, all these files, searching for verifiable proof of their ideas. And I'll be the first to admit, I never really fully grasped onto that whole magic bullet theory that the Warren Commission came up with. You don't know what the magic bullet theory is? Don't worry, we're going to get to it. But the release of these files has stoked the flames of curiosity once again when it came to the assassination of JFK. So for today's episode, guys, I'm gonna give you the rundown as to what exactly happened in Dallas, Texas, the day John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And no, this video is not going to delve into any conspiracy theories. There are way too many to discuss, and I'm sure you guys will also handle that in the comment section down below anyway. Instead, today, guys, I'm going to take you on the route that Kennedy took through Dallas, Texas before his final fatal moments. But before we get into that, as always, let's get into some context, because context is key. So first off, we have John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. He was elected in 1960 after beating out Richard Nixon, and within his 3 years of being president, he had already done quite a bit. First off, within his first 100 days, he had his first major up via something known as the Bay of Pigs. He averted nuclear war with the Russians via something that became known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was a big fan of the American space program, wanted NASA to succeed, and he also created the Peace Corps. So those are just a few of the things that we can talk about when discussing Kennedy. And then on the other side of this coin, we have a man named Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, Lee Harvey Oswald was a member of the United States Marine Corps before being honorably discharged. And at the age of 20, he makes his way to the Soviet Union, where he renounces his American citizenship. But in 1962, Oswald returns to the United States, this time with a brand new wife and baby, and moves to Texas. Eventually, he would make his way down to Louisiana, live there for a little bit, and then in 1963, moves back to Texas, Dallas, Texas specifically, where he gets a job at the Texas School Book Depository. Now, it should be obvious to you by now that Oswald was a communist sympathizer, and in fact, in 1963, he made his way down to Mexico City to try to get into Cuba, but he was denied entry. So your stage is now set with your two key players. On one side, you have President John F. Kennedy, and on the other side, you have Lee Harvey Oswald. Two men who I think it's safe to say would probably never have met in real life. But according to the Warren Commission, on November 22nd, 1963, their worlds would collide in a way that would pretty much shake up the globe. So here's how the day pans out. At 11:38 a.m. on November 22nd, 1963, Air Force One touches down at Love Field in Dallas, Texas. The president and his wife, Jackie Kennedy, exit the plane. They shake hands with a lot of people. They meet with people. And then they get into an open-top limo with the governor of Texas, John Connally, and his wife, Nellie. The presidential motorcade then leaves Love Field and will make its way down a predetermined parade route, and the final destination of the motorcade will be the Dallas Trade Mart, where President Kennedy is set to make a speech. Now, the parade route will take the presidential motorcade through downtown Dallas into an area known as Dealey Plaza, onto a street called Elm Street. It's kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street scenario. Anyone get that? Everyone make that connection? No? Anyone? All right, let's just move on. Too soon. I'm sorry, my bad. Now, let me point out that the parade route is packed with people, okay? It's said that around 200,000 people lined the parade route so that they could catch a glimpse of President Kennedy and the First Lady. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of commotion, but the air is jubilant. There's an air of celebration, and on top of that, the weather is perfect that day. It's crystal blue skies, sun is in the air. It's a great day in Dallas, Texas, and President Kennedy is loving the atmosphere. If you look at videos of it, he's waving to the crowds, he's smiling, he's loving life. Now, at 12:30 p.m., the limo turns onto Elm Street, which takes the motorcade into Dealey Plaza. And at this point, it'll only be just a matter of moments before they arrive at the trademark. And when the limo turns onto Elm Street, it is at this point when the first gunshot rings out. Now, people hear the gunshot, but no one really pays any attention to it, especially considering that the bullet doesn't hit any of its intended targets. The second bullet, however, catches Kennedy in the neck, which causes him to bring his hands up to his throat, as you can see in the infamous Abraham Zapruder film. Jackie leans over to see what's going on with JFK, and it's at this point the third and most deadliest shot does the most damage. The bullet hits the president's head, which causes part of his skull to basically explode, and it's at this point Jackie crawls onto the trunk of the limo as the limo speeds off to Parkland Memorial Hospital. Now, remember what I said earlier about that quote-unquote magic bullet theory that I don't really buy into? Yeah, the magic bullet was the second shot that hits Kennedy in the throat. Let me explain to you what the magic bullet theory is according to the Warren Commission. Here's what they actually thought happened. It's called the magic bullet theory because the commission believed that this bullet entered Kennedy below his shoulder and exits through his throat. Then it travels through the air into Governor Connolly near his armpit, comes out under his right nipple, then goes through his right wrist, and then dives into his left thigh. And then on top of that, that bullet, according to the commission, which made that amazing route through two men and smashed through multiple body parts, comes out in pristine condition. This is the bullet that they call the magic bullet. Not a scratch on it, not a dent, even though it went through two men. Ridiculousness aside, though, the limo speeds off to the hospital so that they can try to save the president. But unfortunately,
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
So where's Oswald during all this? As the president is being sped to the hospital to try to have his life saved, but unfortunately he passes away, where's Lee Harvey at? Well, 12 minutes after Kennedy is pronounced dead, police make their way into the Texas School Book Depository, specifically the 6th floor, after witnesses claim to have heard shots coming from that building. On the 6th floor of the building, police find an Italian-made Mannlicher Carcano rifle and bullet casings. Additionally, they also find Lee Harvey Oswald's palm and fingerprints on boxes near the weapon. Fast forward to 1:18 p.m., a police officer by the name of J.D. Tippit is shot and killed just south of downtown Dallas. At 1:55 p.m., a witness to Officer Tippit's shooting tells police that the man that shot the officer has run into the Texas Theater, which is a movie theater. The authorities enter the theater. They find Lee Harvey Oswald in one of the theaters, and after a brief struggle, they bring him out into the sunlight, where he is taken into custody. By 7:26 p.m. of that night, Oswald will have been arraigned for the murder of Officer Tippit, and by nearly 11:30 that night, he is also charged with killing President Kennedy. Now let's go back to the other scene. While all this was happening to Oswald, the officer being shot, him being arrested and taken out of a theater, at 2:36 p.m. aboard Air Force One, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson is sworn in as the 36th President of the United States, while President Kennedy's body is loaded onto the plane, and then they fly back to Washington, D.C. Fast forward to the next day, November 23rd, 1963, Oswald appears in front of the media for the first time and denies any wrongdoing whatsoever. Says he didn't shoot a president, said he didn't shoot the officer. He's done nothing wrong. He didn't shoot anybody.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
And then the next day, on November 24, 1963, at 11:21 a.m., as Lee Harvey Oswald is being prepared to be transferred to a county facility, a nightclub owner by the name of Jack Ruby shoots and kills Oswald in the basement of the Dallas City Jail, which means any information that we could have possibly received from Lee Harvey Oswald or any sort of investigation that could have gone into the shooting of President Kennedy dies with Oswald on the floor of that jail. And then finally, on November 25, 1963, President John F. Kennedy's body is marched through the streets of Washington from Capitol Hill to its final resting place in Arlington. Coincidentally, also on November 25th, Lee Harvey Oswald is buried in a cemetery. So there it is, guys. That is the story of the assassination of John F. Kennedy as presented to us by the Warren Commission, which was a commission that was put together by President Lyndon B. Johnson. It was headed up by Chief Justice Earl Warren, and their job was to try to figure out what exactly happened the day JFK was shot and killed. Now, of course, guys, there are countless other theories as to what people think actually happened on the day of the assassination. For example, a popular one is that there was a second gunman behind the grassy knoll, which is why when you see the video of JFK's head exploding because of a bullet, it goes back and to the left, back and to the left, back and to the left. Anybody here see Oliver Stone's JFK? Other theories include Lee Harvey Oswald. Was he just a patsy for this whole killing? Was Kennedy killed by the CIA? Was he killed by the American government? Was he killed by a foreign government? And that's why these declassified files, when they were released by Trump, were such a thrill for a lot of people to read. And as a matter of fact, if you guys want to read those files for yourself and form your own theories, link down below in the description box. Click that link and just have a ball, man. Dive into as many documents as you like. And that, my friends, is it for another episode of US 101. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, man. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to all of you that have subscribed to the channel. Thanks to all of you that have watched the videos, shared them, liked them, left comments. I know the comment section for this video is going to be rife with conspiracy theories, so go ahead and just lay them all out there. But just know that if anybody argues with you about your theory, just make the discussion civil. No need to yell at people, call people names. There's no reason for any of that. As always, guys, you can follow US 101 on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all those links down below in the description box. Guys, I will see you next Tuesday for an all-new episode of Us 101. Until then, I am all done. Now, excuse me as I exit back and to the left. Back and to the left. Back and to the left.